The early 1970s were a time of uncertainty for the LEGO Group. Sales had been steady, but the company had lost its momentum after 2 decades of rapid growth. While the company had been producing toys since the 1930s, it wasn't until 1949 that they started selling the little plastic bricks. Over the course of the 1950s, this product line exploded in popularity, and LEGO started to become a household name. In 1958, LEGO's founder, Ole Kurt Christensen, passed away at the age of 66. Taking his place at the head of the company was his son, Godfred Kurt Christensen. Godfred had already been playing a key role in the company for years, and would truly take things to the next level. By 1960, the company had expanded far beyond its roots in Denmark, with sales offices in several countries across Europe. Over the course of the 60s, LEGO bricks would be introduced to North America, Asia, and Australia, becoming a true global phenomenon. During this time, Godfred became convinced that LEGO bricks were not only useful as a toy for children, but could be used by adults in professional settings as well. The clearest evidence of this came in 1963. The company launched Modulex, a line of smaller plastic bricks that were designed as a scale modeling tool for architects. Around this same time, Godfred began pushing for another radical idea, a LEGO-themed family park near the company's headquarters in Billund, Denmark. Needless to say, developing an amusement park was far outside the expertise of a toy company, but the idea gained traction over the next few years. In 1968, this resulted in the very first Legoland park, which proved to be an instant success with the public. The company was enjoying rapid growth from these new ventures. However, as author Jens Andersen writes, this perpetual success came at a price. Even a hard-working dynamo like Godfred, who lived and breathed LEGO, couldn't be everywhere at once. There'd been a vacuum in the day-to-day management of LEGO, which meant that in the second half of the 1960s, despite mushrooming sales figures, there was a sudden slump in the development of new product lines. Then, in 1969, Godfred's daughter, Hannah, was tragically killed in a car accident. Consumed with grief, Godfred considered selling the company and leaving the toy industry altogether. This set the stage for the 1970s. The company was left waiting for Godfred's son, Kjeld Kurt Christensen, to finish his business degree and start taking over for his father. As Kjeld himself later recalled, Dad's spirit had vanished. In the 1950s and 60s, he was the one who really got things moving and was virtually unstoppable. But suddenly in the 70s, he was the one holding back, and he didn't really want to do much. After a few years of transitioning into the role, Kjeld became the company president in 1979. This was the beginning of a new chapter, where the LEGO product line would finally be refreshed with some new ideas. But of all the changes that were soon to come, one was perhaps more whimsical and endearing than all the rest. Even before Kjeld officially took over the LEGO Group, he had already been spearheading some new ideas. While LEGO bricks could be used to build a wide variety of vehicles, buildings, and objects, there was little in the way of humanoid figures. Studies showed that kids, especially girls, wanted some kind of characters for role-playing, which was seen as a critical aspect of early development. In 1974, the company rectified this with a new line of brick-built figures. These were designed with round heads, printed faces, and articulated arms and hands. The figures appeared in a variety of sets, but were most prominently used in a series of homemaker playsets designed for girls. Parallel to this, in 1975, a smaller type of figure was introduced as well. These were quite simple, without any printed faces or articulated limbs. Both of these styles were developed by LEGO designer Jens Andersen. He would continue to experiment with these ideas over the next few years, as he hoped to combine the best qualities of both figures into one. Meanwhile, in 1977, a third type of figure was introduced, specifically for the Duplo line. Over the last several years, Duplo had grown from a small experiment into a fully fledged product line. The Duplo figures were simple but cute. While they didn't have any limbs, their different head designs allowed them to portray a variety of generic characters. Generally speaking, Duplo was designed for kids 1 to 5 years old, while the standard LEGO system sets were designed for kids 3 and up. It was expected that somewhere in this 3 to 5 age range, kids would transition from Duplo to the standard bricks. At the time, the LEGO system broadly came in 2 flavors, either a loose collection of bricks or models of various vehicles and buildings. As Keld was transitioning into the role of company president, he wanted to expand this product line with new, well-defined themes. He envisioned sets that were designed within specific genres, which would encourage a wider variety of play patterns. As he later explained, "It was a model I had had in my head for several years, and it meant that, more than ever before, consumers would be able to buy LEGO that suited the ages of their children. That was LEGO's new strategy and vision." A critical part of this plan was a new type of figure being developed by Jens Andersen. In 1978, with guidance from Keld, Knudsen's designs resulted in the LEGO minifigure. This combined the articulation of the large brick-built figures with the compact size of the small faceless ones. 1978 would be a landmark year for the company. This introduced the first official themes to the LEGO product line. There was Castle, which represented the past, Town, which represented the present, and Space, which represented the future. Giving life to these themes were the brand new minifigures, which were included in all of the sets. With the main product line now overhauled, attention turned back to the split between Duplo and the LEGO system. The company wanted a smoother transition between them, something to bring kids from basic toddler toys into more complex model building and role-playing. From these discussions, a unique idea was developed. Younger kids could be introduced to the LEGO system through a cheerful world of anthropomorphic animals. Everything from bears to pigs to elephants would populate this fabulous land, which would appropriately be named Fabuland. While the new minifigures marked a pivotal moment for the LEGO group, they were still fairly generic. They all shared the same basic face, and weren't designed with any specific names or personalities. To some extent, this was by design, as kids would be able to fill in the blanks with their own imaginations. The new Fabuland theme would take a different approach. Since it was designed for young children, it would be centered around the idea of storytelling. Each character would have their own unique name and personality, to give kids a starting point for their own imaginative play. The Fabuland figures would have their own unique style, sitting somewhere between the cutesy designs of the Duplo characters and the articulated bodies of the minifigures. Notably, their heads were mounted on ball joints, giving them a wider range of expression than their peers. Fundamentally though, the Fabuland figures were designed to be compatible with LEGO bricks. They could attach to studs just the same as minifigures, and could hold the same types of accessories. Since LEGO products were sold across multiple continents, the characters' names were localized across numerous countries and languages. To keep things simple here, we'll just refer to them by their UK names. When the Fabuland product line launched in 1979, there were 15 characters populating this new world. They were Bernard Bear, Bertie Bulldog, Billy Goat, Catherine Cat, Charlie Cat, Dr. Dog, Freddy Fox, Mayor Leonard Lion, Dr. Lucy Lamb, Mike Monkey, Michael Mouse, Mortimer Mouse, Patrick Pig, Percy Pig, and Ricky Raccoon. Each Fabuland set included one or more of these figures. As the product line expanded over the coming years, dozens more characters would be introduced. Some of these figures were sold in their own individual character packs with a few accessories. This encouraged the idea of collecting different characters, which was made easy at this low price point. To reinforce the idea of storytelling, many of the sets included storybooks. These were designed not only for parents to read aloud to their children, but also served as the building instructions for the set itself. For example, let's take a look at set number 3667, The Bakery Shop, which was released in 1982. In this story, we're introduced to Freddy Fox, who is sly and persuasive, and Patricia Piglet, who is smart but stubborn. Freddy asks Patricia to help him build a bakery. She's happy to oblige, dreaming of all the cake she'll get to eat once the bakery is finished. Freddy doesn't address this and encourages her to keep building. Once the bakery is finished, Patricia realizes that it was only designed to bake bread. She's furious at Freddy, who had purposely withheld this information until now. In a fit of rage, Patricia destroys the bakery. Freddy is shocked and calls out Patricia for her nasty temper. Fortunately, the two friends quickly make up. Patricia suggests they rebuild the bakery in a different way, this time with a bigger bread oven. As it turns out, she loves the bread after all. The two friends rebuild the bakery again, this time as a bread factory. Now they can bake enough bread for everyone in Fabuland. As we can see, the story isn't just a vessel for building the set as it appeared on the box. It offers reasons that the characters might want to rebuild their world with new designs. This encouraged kids to be creative and experiment on their own. It's also worth noting that these characters are not perfect friends who always get along. Many of them have flaws that get them into trouble, and it's not always clear who's in the right or wrong. Of course, Fabuland was still a cheerful world at heart, but this was well balanced with simple conflict that kids could learn from. While the Fabuland sets included plenty of existing pieces from the LEGO system, this theme would introduce an overwhelming catalog of new parts. Most prominently, the buildings and vehicles were based on large, prefabricated pieces. The reason for this came back to the target age group. Fabuland was designed for younger children who didn't have the experience or patience for more complex models. The larger pieces allowed them to spend less time building, and more time playing and coming up with their own stories. But this only scratches the surface of Fabuland's unique parts. There were hundreds of parts that were newly designed for this line, many of which would never appear again. There's far more than we can discuss here, but let's look at a few examples. One of the most iconic parts was the Fabuland tree. While other trees were introduced to the LEGO system in the 1970s, this one was completely unique in its design. To furnish the characters' homes, new pieces included the bed, table, and chair. These are unique even by today's standards, as a single-piece bed and table have never been released for minifigures. The classic minifigure chair did release around this same time, but it was much smaller than the Fabuland one. Another interesting example is the wheelbarrow, which was exclusive to the Fabuland sets. Minifigures wouldn't get their own version of the wheelbarrow until 2012, more than 30 years after it first appeared in Fabuland. A few other parts worth mentioning are the broom, half-barrel tub, baguette, and cauldron. These were first introduced in Fabuland sets in the early 80s, but were carried over into several other themes, and can still be found in new LEGO sets today. But truthfully, there were dozens of accessories for the Fabuland figures, ranging from everyday household items to musical instruments. Some were carried over into other LEGO themes, but most of these were never used outside of the Fabuland sets. Fabuland's buildings were defined by large walls, windows, and doors, all molded in LEGO's primary colors of red, yellow, and blue. Since the sets relied so heavily on these bright colors, the designers wanted to balance this out with some earth tones. A new color called Fabuland Brown was used in a handful of parts, including the table, and a few of the characters' heads, like Bruno Bear. Another new color was Brick Yellow, more commonly known as tan. This was only used in a couple character heads and the baguette piece. While these colors had never been used in LEGO bricks before, the company had actually developed them almost 20 years earlier. When the Modulex system was launched in 1963, The bricks were molded in dull colors for use in architectural modeling. The color palettes of LEGO and Modulex had stayed separate for almost 20 years, but that would all change with Fabuland. As it turned out, Fabuland Brown was based on the Modulex color Terracotta, and Tan was actually the Modulex color Buff. Tan would later become a staple of the LEGO color palette, but Fabuland Brown would never be used again, aside from a couple Duplo parts. Another new color, Fabuland Lime, was only used in a couple character heads and the watering can. Fabuland Red was used exclusively in a few character heads, like Clara Cow. Earth Orange was used in a few character heads and accessories, including the broom. Interestingly, these colors would cross paths with Modulex as well. By the early 80s, Modulex had evolved into other business uses, like charts and data visualization. This called for a new range of brighter colors to supplement the dull ones from the 60s. As a result, these three Fabuland colors crossed over into the Modulex color palette, becoming pastel green, red, and orange. Earth Orange would appear in several other LEGO parts in the coming years, but it was phased out in the 2000s. Fabuland Lime would only appear in a few Duplo parts, and Fabuland Red was never used again. Strangely, another new color was Fabuland Orange, which was just a slightly less vibrant version of Earth Orange. This color was used in some of the character heads, like Ricky Raccoon, and a couple accessories, like the half-barrel tub. This color was never used outside of Fabuland. Another new color was Nougat, which was only used in a few character heads, like Percy Pig. For decades, this was the only time Nougat was ever used in the LEGO system. But since the 2010s, this color has been seeing a resurgence, and is slowly becoming available in more parts. The final color to mention is regular old brown. This color had appeared in other themes as early as 1974, but it was generally only found in a few accessories, like the hairbrush and broom. Despite its rarity at the time, brown would become one of the staple colors of LEGO in the coming years. Between all of these rare colors and exclusive parts, it's clear that Fabuland's designers were given the creative freedom to make this world truly unique. One of the hallmarks of Fabuland was that its world extended far beyond the series of toys. From the very beginning, the characters appeared on a wide range of branded products, from keychains to jigsaw puzzles to cutlery sets. Merchandising is common for LEGO themes and characters today, but this was the first time the company really embraced it on this kind of scale. Unsurprisingly, the characters appeared in a range of children's books. At least a couple dozen books were released over the years, spanning multiple series with different illustration styles. When Fabuland launched in 1979, the characters also came to life in an audio play called Stories from Fabuland. This was released on vinyl and cassette, and was soon followed by a sequel in 1980. These releases were the LEGO Group's first foray into audio entertainment, and were only released in West Germany.
Hallo zusammen. Ihr könnt euch sicher denken, was ich euch heute erzählen will. Es steht ja groß und breit auf der Plattenhülle. Richtig, Geschichten aus Fabuland.
But the most memorable form of media would come in 1987. The LEGO Group ventured into children's television for the very first time, with a new series called Edward and Friends. This followed the adventures of Edward Elephant and many other characters from the Fabuland canon. The show was produced by Filmfare, an animation studio based in the UK. Filmfare had about 20 years of animation experience under its belt. In the early 1970s, they produced one of their most popular shows, The Wombles, based on the series of children's books. Shortly after, they adapted another British classic, Paddington, which ran from the mid-70s to the mid-80s. It was around this time, in 1986, that the studio announced it was working on Edward and Friends. The show would be narrated by Bernard Cribbins, who had worked on several Filmfare projects in the past. While the stop-motion animation didn't use actual Lego bricks, the characters, vehicles, and settings all resembled the toys very closely. The characters weren't quite as sassy as they had appeared previously, but their cuteness translated well to this new medium.
Could you pass the... please?
Please?
No, not the marmalade, No, the toast.
Oh.
Oh, I think I'll go for a walk. Cure these hiccups. Excuse me.
Oh, Edward! Give me a hand planting these potatoes, would you? Your trunk is so much handier than a trowel.
Of course. That one. Oh.
Unfortunately, most of the details about the show's production have been lost to time. At the very least, we know that Edward and Friends aired on children's television in the UK and Canada. According to various sources, the show aired in other countries as well, like Ireland and New Zealand, but the information is spotty at best. There's also been some conflicting reports about the number of episodes. Some sources claim there were 28 episodes, but others have confirmed that there were actually 26. The first 18 episodes aired on television in 1987, and were given home video releases in the UK. The first 9 episodes appeared on Volume 1, and the second 9 episodes appeared on Volume 2. In 1988, another 8 episodes were aired on television. Notably, the English dub of these episodes is considered lost media, as these were never given a home video release in the UK. However, the show was dubbed into at least a few other languages. As it turns out, the 8 lost episodes have actually survived in Hungarian. Hungary got its own 2 home video releases in 1990, but unlike the UK version, these included the full run of 26 episodes.
Nem, köszönöm, nem kérek. Most valahogy... elnézést. Most valahogy nem kívánom a süteményt.
Ó, akkor értem.
De a cseresznyét azért nem utasítom vissza.
In addition to the merchandise and home media, Fabuland also came to life at the Legoland Park in Billund, Denmark. The park had grown considerably since its opening in 1968. By 1980, one corner of the park had become home to a couple rides for younger children. Perhaps most notably, this included the mini cars, which served as a smaller version of the popular traffic school ride. This corner of the park didn't have any specific theming at the time, but in the 1981 operating season, this area was transformed into Fabuland. This had oversized versions of the iconic buildings, trees, and characters from the toy line. While Legoland had other themed areas, this was the first time an area of the park was based on a specific theme of sets. The Fabuland area expanded over the next couple of years, with a play area, an airplane ride, a teacup-style ride, and a Ferris wheel. From books to television, and from toys to rides, Fabuland's influence had truly taken hold. Despite its popularity for several years, Fabuland would not last forever. 1989 marked the 10th year that the sets were available in catalogs and on store shelves. But after this final year, the theme was quietly retired. The specific reason for this is not well documented. The prevailing theory is that Fabuland was starting to show its age, and was discontinued due to poor sales. While that's a reasonable assumption to make, it doesn't really give us the whole picture. Truth be told, the 1980s were a massively successful decade for the LEGO Group. Kjeld Kirk Christiansen's strategies had paid off, and the company's revenues had doubled multiple times over. This was thanks in part to the minifigures, which by the end of the 80s had become an icon of the toy world. In 1989, the LEGO Group released a new theme of sets based on pirates. The minifigures in these sets were the first to have different face prints, and the first to represent specific named characters. In other words, the minifigure was becoming more adaptable to different forms of storytelling. The fact that this happened in Fabuland's final year seems to be a sign that it was time to pass the torch. Both types of figures had been created at a time when the company was figuring out its new identity. It wasn't clear at the time whether either of them would be successful in the long run. But now, a decade later, the minifigure had proven to be far more popular and versatile. Perhaps at this point, it no longer made sense to have these separate, non-standard figures, especially when they could only be used in a single line of sets. Shortly after Fabuland was discontinued, its area in Legoland was renamed to Duplo Land. Despite this, the theming of this area stayed largely the same. Some park maps imply that the Fabuland characters might have remained there for a couple years. But at the same time, oversized Duplo figures did start appearing there as well. To be fair, over the course of the 80s, Duplo sets had slowly evolved to look quite similar to those in Fabuland. By the time the area of Legoland was renamed, the two product lines looked similar enough that the discrepancies probably weren't noticed by guests. In the coming years, a second Legoland park opened in Windsor, UK in 1996, and a third opened in California in 1999. In these cases, the areas for young kids were designed from the ground up to resemble Duplo. Eventually, the original park in Billund was updated with these same designs. In 2000, the LEGO Group released a series of sets based on Mickey Mouse. The style should look suspiciously familiar, as many of the unique parts from Fabuland were resurrected for these sets. This was the first time many of these parts had been used in over a decade, and was the last time many of them would ever be seen again. In a way, this proves that Fabuland was more than the sum of its parts, as this Mickey Mouse theme only lasted for about a year. It's easy to wonder why Fabuland was discontinued, but it's actually quite remarkable that it lasted for as long as it did. Over the course of LEGO history, most themes have only lasted around 2 to 5 years. It's the nature of the toy business. Trends and styles are constantly evolving. While LEGO bricks are always being adapted for new ideas, many of those ideas have a limited shelf life. The fact that Fabuland thrived for a full decade is proof that it was truly something special. While Fabuland has been gone now for over 30 years, its charm continues to live on. LEGO enthusiasts, especially those who grew up with the Fabuland sets, have created their own tributes to this whimsical world. From entire scale villages to Star Wars crossovers, fans have found creative and hilarious ways to keep the Fabuland spirit alive. Likewise, most of the information we know about Fabuland today is thanks to the painstaking work by fans. This community has put years of work into cataloging the sets, parts, characters, and media. But the LEGO Group has joined in the fun as well. In the spring of 2025, the company unveiled a whole new exhibit at the LEGO House in Billund. This is a wonderful tribute to Fabuland's legacy, showcasing the sets, books, and merchandise from across its 10-year run. A few sets in recent years have made references to Fabuland as well, showing that LEGO's designers still respect its colorful history. LEGO themes today are no stranger to animated shows, familiar characters, and appearances at the Legoland parks. We don't give a second thought to this today, but it's worth remembering that it all started with a small town of friendly animals. This delightful place has never been forgotten, and you can still return there anytime you wish, if you just use a little imagination.